It all started with a knock at the window. Some stories are so disturbing, they stay in your head for days. And these aren't just stories. They're real, two terrifying true tales, shared by people who barely made it out to tell the world. Buckle up, because once you hear these, you'll never feel safe alone again. It all started with a knock at the window. It was a cold, cloudy October night when 17-year-old Mia found herself completely alone at home for the first time. Her parents had gone out of town for the weekend to attend a family wedding, and despite her mom's hesitation, Mia had convinced them she was mature enough to stay behind. She wanted the weekend to herself. Peace, quiet, snacks, and binge watching her favorite shows without being interrupted. What could possibly go wrong? The night started off just like she had planned. She microwaved a big bag of popcorn, grabbed a soda, and settled onto the couch under a cozy blanket. Outside, the wind whistled through the trees, and the occasional gust would make the old wooden house creak. But Mia didn't think much of it. She grew up here. The sounds of the house were normal. It was around midnight when she first heard it. Knock, knock, soft, slow, coming from a living room window, just a few feet away from where she sat. Mia froze, her heart giving a little jolt. She glanced at the window, but the curtains were closed. Probably a branch, she muttered to herself and tried to shake it off. But then it happened again. Knock, 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 this time louder and unmistakably human. She paused her show, her ears strained. No wind, no trees brushing, just silence. Cautiously, she stood up and tiptoed to the window. She gently pulled the curtain back just enough to peek outside. Nothing. The yard was dark, empty. The porch light barely reached the edge of the flower beds. She let out a shaky breath and laughed nervously. "I'm scaring myself," she said, trying to sound confident. "It's nothing." She sat back down, but couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She tried to focus on the TV, but her eyes kept drifting back to the window. Her skin prickled, like someone was watching her. About 10 minutes later, her phone buzzed with notification. As she reached for it, there was another sound. Tap, 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 this time from a different window, one behind the couch. She spun around so fast her drink tipped over. She didn't care. Her hands were shaking. Her heart pounded in her chest like it was trying to escape. Slowly, she got up again and turned toward the window. And there he was, a man, standing outside, not moving, just staring. He was wearing a gray hoodie with the hood up, his face shadowed, but Mia could see enough. The bottom half of his face was visible, and what chilled her to her core was that he was smiling. Not a friendly smile, not even a creepy smile. It was a wrong smile, like something that didn't belong on a human face. She stumbled backward, almost tripping over the coffee table. Her first instinct was to run to the door and lock it, but it was already locked. She double-checked it anyway, then rushed to the other doors and windows, locking every one. But the man outside never moved. He didn't try to open anything. He didn't yell. He just stood there, staring through the glass. Mia grabbed her phone and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? The operator asked calmly. There's a man outside my house, Mia whispered, ducking below the windows. He's just standing there, staring at me. Stay on the line with me, the dispatcher said. Help is on the way. Can you see him now? Mia peeked again. He was gone. She felt a strange wave of both relief and dread. Was it over? Had he left? But then something happened that made her blood run cold. Her bedroom light, upstairs, turned on. She hadn't been in that room all night. The house was empty. Or at least it was supposed to be. He's inside, she whispered into the phone. Oh my God, he's inside my house. The dispatcher's voice was calm, but urgent now. Stay calm, Mia. Get somewhere safe. Do not go upstairs. Is there a back door? Yes, she said, breath shaking. Unlock it and go. Run to a neighbor's house if you can. We're 2 minutes away. Mia didn't wait. She sprinted to the back door, yanked it open, and ran barefoot into the freezing night. Her feet slapped the cold pavement as she bolted across the yard and dug behind her neighbor's shed. She crouched low, barely breathing, and stared at her own house from the shadows. It was eerily still. Then, for just a second, she saw movement. A figure passing by an upstairs window. Slowly, silently, she stayed there, shivering, until she saw red and blue lights flashing in the driveway. The police arrived and entered the house with weapons drawn. A few minutes later, one of the officers came out and approached her. "You did the right thing," he said. "We found him." He had been hiding under Mia's bed, holding a large kitchen knife, waiting. Later, the police discovered the basement window had been pried open from the outside. They believed he had broken in while Mia was downstairs watching TV, completely unaware that someone had slipped inside and crept upstairs. It got even worse. The man had been watching Mia for days, maybe weeks. In a bag left behind, they found photos of her taken through windows at night, candy wrappers, and even a small notebook. It was filled with scribbled words. "She's perfect. She's alone. Tonight." Mia's parents rushed home the next morning and immediately installed security systems, cameras, and extra locks. But Mia never stayed home alone again. She still checks under her bed before sleeping, even now, because once you've seen a smile like that, you never forget it. "You're such a pretty baby," came the voice, but it wasn't her father. Sam and Lily were excited. They just bought their first home together. A charming, slightly old farmhouse tucked away on a quiet back road, surrounded by fields and trees. It wasn't flashy, but was affordable, peaceful, and perfect for raising their 6-month-old daughter, Emma. Life felt like it was finally coming together. The first few days after moving in were quiet. They unpacked, decorated Emma's nursery, and settled into their new routines. On the second night, Sam set up the baby monitor, an audio-only device that let them listen on Emma while she slept in her crib upstairs. It gave Lily peace of mind, especially since Emma still woke up crying once or twice a night. For the first few nights, things were normal. Emma would fuss a little. They'd hear through the monitor, and one of them would go rock her back to sleep. No big deal. But everything changed on the fourth night. At around 2:30 a.m., Lily sat bolt upright in bed. She wasn't sure what woke her at first. No cries, no footsteps. Just this awful feeling, like something was wrong. Then the monitor crackled. She reached over and picked it up, pressing it to her ear. There was a strange hiss of static, followed by a voice. Not Emma's, not crying. It was a man's voice, deep, calm, almost whispering. Go to sleep, little girl. You're okay. You're safe with me." Lily froze. For a few seconds, she didn't breathe. Then she shook Sam awake. "Sam, someone's on the monitor." He sat up, confused. "What do you mean? Like Emma?" "No," Lily whispered, her voice trembling. A man's voice." Sam snatched the monitor and listened, but it was just static now. No voice, no crying. They both rushed upstairs to Emma's room. She was fast asleep in her crib. Nothing looked out of place. The windows were shut and locked. The door had been closed the whole time. They checked the monitor settings, thinking maybe it had picked up a neighbor's signal, but there were no close neighbors. Their nearest neighbor lived about a half-mile down the road. No one else around had kids. Trying to stay calm, Sam brushed it off. "It's probably just interference. These things aren't perfect." Lily nodded, but her unease lingered. The next night, they both went to bed earlier than usual. Around 2:45 a.m., the monitor came alive again, but this time it wasn't static. It was breathing, slow, raspy breathing. Then the same man's voice. "You're such a pretty baby. You don't even cry for me anymore." Sam and Lily stared at each other in horror. Sam didn't wait. He ran upstairs, burst into the nursery, and flipped the lights on. Emma was awake now, blinking in confusion from the sudden light, but unharmed. Sam searched the closet, checked under the crib, opened the window. Everything seemed fine, except the monitor was still on, still crackling, still breathing. This time, Sam unplugged it completely. The next morning, they bought a new monitor, a smart one with audio and a live video feed. They also installed a camera in Emma's room that synced to their phones. Sam wanted to believe it was just a tech glitch, but Lily wasn't so sure, and what they saw next would make sure she never slept peacefully again. On the third night with the new system, they decided to test it. They stayed awake, watching the live camera feed from their phones as Emma slept. Around 2:50 a.m., something moved. At first, it was just a shadow in the corner of the screen. Then it shifted slightly, and they realized it wasn't a shadow. It was someone, a man, thin, dressed in dark clothes, standing completely still in the far corner of the nursery, just watching Emma. Sam's heart nearly stopped. He grabbed a bat and raced upstairs while Lily called 911. But when Sam burst into the room, no one was there, just Emma, wide-eyed and beginning to cry. The window? Unlocked, open just a crack. Police arrived within minutes. They searched the house from top to bottom and found nothing, but one officer suggested checking the attic. What they found chilled them to the bone. Hidden behind insulation and boxes was a crawl space, one they hadn't even known existed. Inside was a small pile of trash, food wrappers, an empty water bottle, a flashlight, and something far more disturbing, a notebook. It was filled with drawings of Emma. Childlike sketches, dozens of them. Her in her crib, her sleeping, her playing with toys. All dated, all recent. One of the final pages simply read, "Soon." Sam and Lily left the house that night and never returned. They moved in with relatives while police continued the investigation. The official theory? Someone had been living in the attic, sneaking into the nursery through the crawl space at night. The old farmhouse, with its creaky walls and hidden corners, had made it easy, and the man had been using the baby monitor, whispering to Emma while they slept. Even worse, there were signs he had been doing this long before they moved in. They never found him. Sam and Lily moved across the country a month later. They got rid of every baby monitor they owned. Even now, years later, Lily says she sometimes hears that voice when she dreams. She'll go to sleep, little girl. But the scariest part? Emma still sleeps with the closet light on. She says she doesn't like the quiet man who used to stand in the corner. She thought she was alone until her bedroom light turned on by itself. Mia was used to being independent. At 17, she was smart, calm under pressure, and not the type to get scared easily. So when her parents told her they were going out of town for a weekend wedding, she didn't hesitate to volunteer to stay home alone. No babysitters, no neighbors checking in, just her, some snacks, and a long list of movies she'd been dying to binge. The house was in a quiet neighborhood, not completely rural, but far enough from town that at night it got eerily still. She liked it that way. Until that night. It was a Saturday evening, around 10 p.m. Rain had started tapping against the windows, soft but steady. Mia was curled up on the couch in the living room with a blanket over her lap, half watching a movie while scrolling through her phone. Everything felt normal, until the knocking started. At first, she thought she imagined it. A soft, slow tapping sound coming from the window right behind her. She turned her head, but the curtains were drawn. She waited. Nothing. Maybe it was just the wind or a tree branch. But then it happened again. Knock, knock, knock. Deliberate, rhythmic, closer this time. She got up cautiously and peeked through blinds. Nothing was there, just the empty, rain-soaked yard. A nervous laugh escaped her lips. "Okay, chill out," she whispered to herself, trying to shake off the tension creeping up her spine. She went back to the couch, turned up the volume, and buried herself deeper under the blanket. But the quiet didn't last. A few minutes later, there was another sound, not a knock, but a soft shuffle, like movement, inside the house. She sat up, her heart skipped. Then she noticed something strange. The hallway light flickered on. She hadn't touched it. She was certain. Her eyes darted to the staircase. The upstairs was dark. She hadn't gone up all day. Her bedroom door should still be closed. And then she saw it, a soft glow, coming from upstairs. Her bedroom light was on, and she had left it off. Mia's blood ran cold. She stayed completely still, trying to hear any other sounds, footsteps, creaking, anything. But all she could hear was the rain outside and the steady thump of her heartbeat. Something was wrong. She grabbed her phone, hand shaking, and called 911. 911, what's your emergency? Someone's in my house, she whispered. I think they're upstairs. My bedroom light just turned on. I'm supposed to be alone. The dispatcher immediately responded with calm urgency. Stay on the line with me. Can you safely exit the house? Mia nodded, realizing they couldn't see her. Yes, the back door's right here. Don't go upstairs. Do not investigate. Just get out. Barefoot, she tiptoed to the back door, quietly unlocked it, and slipped outside. The cold rain hit her skin instantly, shocking her into full awareness. She darted across the yard, through the wet grass, and hid behind her neighbor's shed. From her hiding spot, she could still see her own house. And there it was, movement in her bedroom window, a silhouette. Someone was definitely in her room, and they were watching the backyard. Mia crouched lower, trying not to breathe too loud. The dispatcher kept her calm until police arrived. 3 units, lights flashing, engines humming. Officers approached the house with flashlights and weapons drawn. Mia came out and pointed to the side entrance. He's still in there, upstairs. My room. It only took a few minutes. 2 officers emerged from the house with someone in handcuffs. A man, wet, pale, thin, no shoes. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't even struggling. He just stared at Mia as they walked him past her, silent, almost like he recognized her. One of the officers stayed behind to speak with Mia, while the others secured the house. We found him hiding under your bed, he said quietly. He had a knife. Her legs gave out, and she had to sit down on the neighbor's steps. The officer continued. He got in through the basement window. Must have slipped in while you were downstairs. He didn't try to rob anything. Nothing's taken. He was just hiding, waiting. Waiting for what? She didn't want to know. Later that night, police found a duffel bag hidden in the basement crawl space. Inside were photos of Mia, taken from outside her windows. Some at night, some during the day, some from angles that suggested he had been inside the house before. Also inside the bag were gloves, rope, and a spiral notebook. One page read, "She's alone this weekend. She always watches movies at night. Tonight's the night." Another said, "She leaves the back door unlocked sometimes. Easy access if I wait long enough." But perhaps the most disturbing note of all was scrawled at the very end. "Under the bed is the best spot. She never checks." That line haunted Mia more than anything else, because she hadn't checked. Not once. She had spent hours sitting downstairs, completely unaware that someone was above her, lying in the dark, listening to her move, waiting for the right moment. After that night, Mia never stayed alone again. Her parents installed an alarm system, cameras in every room, and reinforced locks on every door and window. But even with all of that, she never truly felt safe in that house again. Even years later, she still has a ritual. Every night before bed, she turns on all the lights, checks every closet, and always looks under her bed, because now she knows. Sometimes, the monsters you fear aren't in your imagination. They're real, and they might be right underneath you. They thought they were alone until they found a hidden door in the ceiling. After the terrifying incident in Emma's nursery, the voice through the baby monitor, the dark figure caught on camera, Sam and Lily had left their house that same night. They hadn't packed. They hadn't even turned off the lights. They just grabbed their daughter and drove away, heart pounding the entire time. But the police insisted on finishing their investigation. Something wasn't adding up. There were no signs of forced entry. No fingerprints. No footprints. Nothing to suggest someone had broken in from outside. And yet, someone had been in that room. They had seen him on the baby cam. He was real. A week later, the officers called Sam and Lily to update them. "We'd like your permission to do a deeper structural search," one of them said. "There might be crawl spaces, attics, or wall gaps in that house we haven't explored yet." Sam didn't hesitate. "Tear the place apart if you need to." What the officers found that day explained everything and left everyone involved shaken for good. Behind the closet in Emma's nursery, there was an old wooden panel that looked like part of the wall, but when tapped, it gave a hollow sound. One officer pried it open. Behind it was a small, narrow tunnel, just wide enough for a grown man to crawl through. It led to the attic. At first, it was just darkness, dust, and cobwebs. But then they found it. In the far corner of the attic, hidden behind insulation and a stack of unused moving boxes, was a nest. That's what they called it later. A makeshift sleeping area. Flattened blankets, a stained pillow, half-eaten protein bars, empty water bottles, and a broken flashlight. And next to it, a small leather-bound notebook. It was filled with hand-drawn sketches, hundreds of them, of Emma, drawings of her in her crib, on the changing table, even in the bath. Some were crude and rushed, others disturbingly detailed. Each page was dated, and the earliest entry was from before Sam and Lily moved into the house. The previous owners had no children. The police later contacted them and discovered they had only lived there for 6 months before selling, claiming the house felt off, but never explaining further. Inside the notebook were chilling notes. They never checked the attic. The baby likes when I talk to her. Her name is Emma. I heard them say it. She cries less when I'm close. She smiled at me tonight. Soon I'll take her. That last line made Lily vomit when she read it. The scariest part? Whoever had been living up there had never been seen entering or exiting the house. The theory was that he had moved in before they arrived, possibly hiding during showings or open houses, slipping between walls or ceilings. He had lived there, completely hidden, watching and listening every day. And most terrifying of all, Emma hadn't been afraid of him. She had never screamed, never cried during the whispered voices. Not once. It was as if, in her baby mind, she thought the man in the corner was normal. Sam was haunted by the idea that if they hadn't installed that camera when they did, something far worse could have happened. The crawl space was sealed. The attic was reinforced. But none of it mattered. They sold the house within a month. They didn't even return the pack. The police handled that. Every toy, every blanket, every piece of baby furniture. Gone. Sam didn't want any of it near his family again. They moved across the country, bought a home in a brand new development with open layouts, minimal crawl spaces, and top-tier security. They installed smart cameras in every room, motion detectors, alarms, everything. But no matter how far they moved, Lily couldn't forget. Sometimes she still woke up in a cold sweat, convinced someone was hiding in the walls. Sometimes she checked the baby monitor at 3 a.m. just to be sure. Emma, now a toddler, never remembered the events that shook her parents so deeply. But she did say something once that left Lily frozen. It was bedtime. Emma was 3 years old and pointing at her toy closet. "Mommy, where's the quiet man?" Lily paused, heart hammering. "What quiet man, sweetheart?" "The one who used to whisper when I sleep. He said he liked my singing." Lily didn't respond. She just held her daughter tighter that night and left the light on. Forever. Police never identified the man. No fingerprints, no DNA. Just shadows. He had lived in the attic, in the ceiling, in the walls, like he belonged there. To this day, the house remains unsold. Real estate agents say it's because of the bad press. But those who visited say the nursery still feels occupied. And sometimes, if you're quiet enough, you can hear it. A soft voice coming through the vents, saying, "Go to sleep, little girl. I'm still here." These weren't just scary stories. They were someone's reality. What makes a horror story truly terrifying? Is it the monster in the closet? The voice in the dark? The stranger watching you from the shadows? Or is it the sickening realization that sometimes the most horrifying things don't come from nightmares, but from the world around us? Let's rewind. Mia, just 17 years old, thought she was spending a cozy weekend alone, movies, snacks, and freedom. But in a single moment, a casual knock at the window turned her safe little world upside down. A man had been watching her, following her, studying her routines. And the whole time she thought she was alone, he was already inside, lying under her bed with a knife in his hand, waiting for the right moment to strike. And what saved her? A single decision, to look up, not to brush it off, and to run. Had she waited even a few minutes longer, we wouldn't be talking about her story. We'd be talking about her obituary. Then there's Sam and Lily, new parents just trying to build a life for their baby daughter. They bought an old house. A good deal. Quiet. Remote. Perfect for raising a child. And for a while it was until the baby monitor spoke back. Until a stranger began whispering lullabies through static. Until the camera showed someone already inside their child's room, standing in the shadows, inches from the crib. And worse, that stranger wasn't breaking in. He had been living there, silently, crawling through the vents and walls like a rat, watching their child sleep, watching them move, breathing the same air. These are the kind of stories that keep you awake at night, not because of jump scares or creepy sound effects, but because they're real. These things happen, and they could happen again, to anyone, even you, because let's be honest, how often do we lock our doors but forget about the windows? How many times have you dismissed a noise at night because you were probably just imagining things? How many times have you not checked under the bed because you knew there was nothing there? That's what makes these stories stick with you, because they take place in familiar places. A cozy living room, a baby's nursery, your own home. They remind us that evil doesn't always knock. Sometimes it slips in unnoticed. Sometimes it waits quietly. Sometimes it watches. And that's the scariest part. That fear you feel when you're alone at night, when every sound feels louder than it should be, when your reflection in the mirror doesn't seem quite right. That fear is there for a reason. It's your instincts warning you. Because for Mia, it wasn't paranoia. There was someone under her bed. And for Emma, the voice whispering through the monitor wasn't just electronic noise. It was real. There's something deeply unsettling about the idea that someone could be living with you, around you, without your knowledge. Not a ghost, not a demon, just a person. A living, breathing human who doesn't knock, who doesn't announce themselves, who just watches, who waits. And when you think about it, how many places in your house could someone hide without you knowing? An attic, a crawl space, a basement closet you haven't opened in weeks. Scared? Good. You should be, because horror doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like the neighbor you never talked to, the man who walks a little too close, the voice in the vent that you thought was the pipes. That's why we tell these stories. Not just to creep you out, though we definitely do that too, but to make you pay attention, to lock your doors, to trust your gut, to stop ignoring the feeling that something's off. Because horror isn't just fiction. Sometimes it's a warning. Mia now lives in a house with motion detectors, reinforced locks, and cameras in every room. She still doesn't sleep without checking under her bed first. Sam and Lily move across the country. They no longer use baby monitors. In fact, they don't even allow cameras in their child's room anymore. It's just not worth the risk. And Emma? She still remembers a quiet man in her dreams. So if you're watching this at night, maybe home alone, take a second to listen, not to the screen, to your house. Do you hear anything strange? A creak? A shuffle? A whisper? Don't ignore it. Check the windows. Lock the doors. And yeah, you might want to take a peek under your bed, because these weren't just disturbing horror stories. They were true. And the scariest part? They could happen again. To anyone, even you,